Donald Trump's Republican allies in the Senate are condemning his decision to pull U.S. forces out of Syria. Trump announced that plan yesterday, saying the ISIS had been defeated in the region. But the U.S.-backed Kurdish forces in Syria are warning a troop withdrawal will have dangerous consequences and could, in fact, threaten everything they are fighting for. Let's go to freelance reporter Rebecca Collard, who is with us in Beirut this morning. This was a decision announced by Trump, Rebecca, that surprised not just allies in the Senate, but allies everywhere in the world. What are the Kurdish forces saying this morning?
Yeah, Heather, I think that's an excellent point. Obviously, we saw surprise from within the U.S., even from within Trump's own party, about this decision to withdraw U.S. troops from Syria. But, you know, Syrian Kurds who I've been talking to on the ground have said the same, that they were also surprised by this decision. So, Heather, I think it's important to remember that these are the forces, these Syrian Kurdish forces, primarily composed of the Syrian Democratic Forces that have been fighting ISIS on the ground with the help of U.S. advisors and also, of course, U.S. air significant gains against the militants. But they are also warning this morning that ISIS is not defeated. You know, Heather, ISIS still controls villages along this area, along the border with Syria and inside Syria and Iraq, along this border area. And it's estimated that as many as 2,000 militants could still be holed up in this area. So the first thing we're hearing from Syrian forces this morning is that this is the time when they need U.S. support to continue this fight, to finish this fight against ISIS, Heather. What they don't need is a withdrawal of U.S. forces, that they continue to need this support in fighting the militants to actually finish this job, and that the U.S. withdrawal is very dangerous for that reason, Heather.
We've also heard from Turkey on this morning, Rebecca. This is from the state news agency, quoting Turkey's defense minister and saying this: the Kurds will be buried in the ditches they dug. That's pretty threatening language from Turkey. What does that mean, and what would a U.S. withdrawal mean for the Kurds' position in the region?
Right, Heather, and I think that that is probably what is really on the mind of Syrian Kurds this morning. You know, over the last few years, Heather, the Kurds have managed to carve out a sphere of influence in northern Syria. So a relative degree of autonomy, you know, control over the borders into Iraq, self-governance in many ways, institutions and security forces. And I think they're hoping to maintain that degree of autonomy. Now, Turkey has been clear they will not allow a Kurdish presence on their border after decades of fighting their own Kurdish separatists inside Turkey. So these comments from Turkey are something that we've seen over the last few weeks, that they will crush these forces. Now, the most interesting part, I think, Heather, and something that we should really consider, is that it is putting these Syrian Kurdish forces in a very difficult position, facing a Turkish offensive, and on the other side, having the Syrian government. And some analysts I've been speaking to have said, in this case, what may happen is that the Syrian Kurds will be forced to choose the Syrian government over a Turkish offensive, and that could see a lot of this territory, Heather, actually fall back into the hands of the Syrian government if the U.S. in fact does withdraw all of its forces from this territory in northern Syria, Heather.
Rebecca, thank you very much. We'll be watching this and watching the ongoing reaction in the region. There is Rebecca Collard in Beirut.